Alright, in this session I'm going to work through the solutions to the intermediate paper 1 from November 2018. First 40 marks, if we're looking for that critical C boundary, we got 5, 10, 20, 29, 32, 38, 41. So if we get beyond question 9, maximising our marks, then we're in a strong chance of a grade C. So we start off. Consider the following list of numbers. Okay. Using only the numbers in the list above, write down the 3 cube numbers. So square numbers come up quite frequently. This is an unusual one for a cube number. You should know or be able to figure out that if a square number is something you get by multiplying a digit by itself, then a cube number would be multiplying by itself 3 times. So it's on a non-calculated paper, so they're not going to do take you too far with this. So 2 times 2 times 2 will produce a cube number. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 is a cube number, but it's not in the list. The next one is generated by 3 times 3 times 3. 3 3s are 9, 9 3s are 27. 27 is in the list, so that's a cube number. 4 times 4 times 4. 4 4s are 16. 16 times 4, well, if you're not sure, it's on a non-calculated paper, do your workings out. 4 6s are 24, 4 down carry 2, 1 4 is 4, and 2 is 6. So that's 64. 64 is in the list. And then the next one will be 5 times 5 times 5. 5 5s are 25. 25 times 5, well, if you're not sure, work it out. 5 5s are 25, 2 5s are 10, and 2 125. So you need to be comfortable working with square numbers. That's a square number because 6 6s are 36. That's a square number because 7 7s are 49. So you need to be able to deal and recognize and find squares and cube numbers. So part 2, a number that is both a square number and a multiple of 9. Well, I've already just pointed out that the square numbers are 36 and 64, and I know from my 9 times table 36 is in there because 4 9s are 36. So 36 is a square number because 6 6s make it, and it's also a multiple of 9. And then a number that is a factor of 81. So you're looking for one of these numbers which will divide exactly into 81. I know 4 isn't going to go into it because it's odd. I know that 5 doesn't go into it, so that's that one out. I'm thinking 27. So down here I know 2 27s are 54, so I'm going to try 3 27s. 7 3s are 21, 3 2s are 6, and 2 is 8. So I know that 27 is a factor of 81. Part B, using only 2 numbers from the list, fill in the spaces in the following statement. Dividing one of those numbers by another one of those numbers, and then rounding the answer to the nearest 10 gives an answer of 30. So I'm looking to get one of the bigger numbers, dividing it by one of the smaller numbers to get an answer of 30. So I'm looking for, if I take 4 for example, 4 times 30 is 120. So I'm looking for a number in my list that's about 120, which is 125. So I'm dividing 125 by 4, and if you want to check, lots of room down here, let's do the bus stop or whatever you want to call it method of non-calculated division. 4 into 1 doesn't go, so you carry it over. 4 into 12 goes 3 times. 4 into 5 goes once, remainder, and so on. So it's rounded to the nearest 10, it's going to be 30. So don't be shy on a non-calculator paper of doing your workings out, because often there's credit for them. Question 2. Draw an accurate scale drawing of the triangle shown above. Use the scale 1 centimetre represents 3 meters. Okay, so let's deal with the scale first of all. This is measuring 24 meters by 18 meters, and I want it shrunk into centimeters. So for every meter there is there in the diagram, in the scale drawing, there'll be 1 meter. So you're going to be dividing 24 by 3 and getting 8 centimeters for that, and 18 divided by 3 giving me 6 centimeters for that. Now, a common mistake to be made here is thinking, oh god, this is going to be one of those construction questions where I've got to get my compass and do all of those arcs. You can't do that. You can only construct very specific angles, usually 60s, multiples of 60s, or combinations of halves of 60s. So 60s, 30s, 45s, 90s. There's no way of constructing a 55-degree angle. It doesn't say construct, it says draw. So you don't have to worry about that. So we can just get our ruler. Make sure you use a pencil in the exam so that you can rub it out if you make a mistake. I'm going to draw 6 centimeters, and that's A and B. Then I need my angle measure. And if I'm drawing 55 degrees from there, the center of the angle measurer sits at A, and the 0 needs to line up with one of the lines. So if I line the 0 up with the line AB, which I've drawn, I need to measure 55 degrees. You've got to be clear which scale you're measuring. We want to go 0, 10, 20, so that's the inside scale. And I'm going up to 50, 55 there, halfway between 50 and 60. And I need to measure an 8 centimeters line, which takes me to there. And then to complete the triangle, I join B and C together like that. So 3 marks for that. And then part B, use your scale drawing to calculate the actual length of the side BC. Give your answer in meters. So if we measure the side BC in centimeters, which is 6.8. So that's 6.8 centimeters, which would be 3 times bigger in real life. So I have to do 6.8 times 3. 3/8 are 24, 4 down, carry the 2, 3 6s are 18, and the 2 is 20. Have to be careful here, it's not 204 because we've got a decimal point. That's roughly 7 times 3 is 21. So that needs to produce something in the magnitude of 21, which means the decimal point is going there. Question 3. Simplify. So there's no equals in this. There's nothing that we can get a final answer. We've just got to tidy it up. The way that I teach this is I make you group together your terms with the same letters, and each part has got 3 parts to it. So each part of the expression has got 3. It's got a sign, it's got a magnitude, a number telling you how big it is, and then the variable, the letter it's attached to. The only difference to that is with the very first term, we don't put the plus in unless we absolutely have to. So that's saying I'm at 15x, so I'm at plus 15 on my number line, and I'm going down 7 places, which will take me to 8x. And then the remaining part of that is telling me I'm at negative 2y, and then I'm taking off another 4, so I'm going down the number line further from negative 2, where I'll end up at negative 6y. Then we have a solve. So this is an equation. I will get an answer from this. I need to get m on its own. The first part that I have to deal with is the subtract 7. I need to get rid of that subtract 7 by doing the opposite of subtracting 7, which is adding 7. When you're working with equations, whatever you do to one side, you have to do the same to the other. So when you now tidy this side up, I've got 2m, which is unchanged, and then I got minus 7 plus 7, 0, so that's gone. And on this side, I got 12 add 7, which is 19. Now I have to deal with the 2. The 2 and the m are joined by a multiply. We don't put the multiply in with algebra, only if we replace the letter with a number. So I have to do the opposite of multiplying by 2, which is dividing by 2. And if I divide that side by 2, I have to divide that side by 2 as well. So on this side, that leaves me 2 divided by 2 is 1, so 1m, which we tend to just write as m. And on this side, 19 divided by 2, which in algebra I can just write as 19 over 2, or you can work it out to be 9.5, or changing it into a mixed number. 2 goes into 19 9 times, which is 18, so you have a remainder of 1 out of 2. But if you left it as 19 over 2, I would imagine that would be fine. So we simplify, we solve, and for this final one, we substitute. We replace the letters in this expression with the numbers that we're given. And as soon as we replace the letter with a number, we have to either put the multiplier in, like that, or we replace the letter with a pair of brackets. Either way, it doesn't matter. They both do the same thing. In order to get rid of the brackets, you end up multiplying. We work out the multipliers here because according to BIDMAS, that's what we do. We work with the multiplication before the addition. 5 times 4 is 20. That's a positive, that's a negative. If the signs are different, the answer is negative. Plus 21. So you start on your number line at negative 20, and you're going up 21 places, you end up at 1. Question 4. A triangle and a rectangle are shown below. The perimeter of the triangle is 18. So that means that that side plus that side plus that side come to a total distance of 18. 8 and 7 is 15. So x, hopefully you can see straight away, is 3, but if you want to use that equation solving method, I have to take 15 off that side. Excuse me. So I have to take 15 off the other side as well, leaving me x on its own on this side equals 3 on that side. So I know x is 3. Now I need to calculate the area of the rectangle. Well, I know if x is 3, that is going to be 3 plus 2, which is 5. So the area, you need to know, area of a rectangle is multiplying the length and the width together, which is going to be 6 times 5, which is 30. Now this question doesn't say giving clearly the units of your answer, but it's a good habit to get in. Perimeter is just length, centimeters. Area is length times length, so you have centimeters squared. Question 5. Estimate. They do not want you to waste time doing some ginormous long multiplication followed by an even more horrendous division. If you even did that and got it right, you wouldn't get the marks, because the instruction is estimate, and that's the skill that they are testing. So when you're estimating, you're rounding to one significant figure. So for that, the most significant figure is 5, which means it's either going to round to 50 or 60. It's closest to 60. This will round to 300, and the bottom will round to 2000. I can multiply the top. 6 3s are 18, followed by 3 zeros, and the bottom will be 2000. I can repeatedly divide by 10, which knocks off a 0 every time I do it, which means I'm left with 18 divided by 2, which is 9. With part B, they're giving you an accurate sum, an accurate piece of arithmetic. They're telling you that 341 times 57 is 19,437. So any arrangement of that with the same digits will have corresponding digits in the answer. So 3.41 is that set of digits, multiplied by 5.7 equals that. So my answer is going to have those digits in it. It's just they'll have a decimal place in a decimal point in a different place. Now, just like you were estimating up there, that's roughly 3, that's roughly 6, and 6 3s are 18. So you want that answer to be close to 18. If I put the decimal point there, I've got 1943.7. If I put it there, 194.37. If I put it there, 19.437, which is close to 18. With this one, I'm doing 19,437, which is those digits, divided by 570, which are those digits. So my answer is going to have the digit 341 in it. Let's estimate. That's roughly 20,000. That's roughly 600. I can cross off 2 zeros. I can't cross off any more. So it's how many times does 6 go into 200? Well, it's not going to be 341 because that's smaller than it. It's not going to be 3.41. It's going to be 30 something. So it's going to be 34.1. So that's the strategy you use with a question like that. Work out what digits you need, and then, just like with the top one, estimate to work out where to put your decimal point. Question 6, OCW. In this question, you'll be assessed on the quality of your organisation, communication, and accuracy in writing. Excuse me a sec. That means mathematically you can get the entire question wrong, but if you're organised and clear in what you're trying to do, you could still pick up 2 marks. A box contains 5 identical balls numbered 1 to 5 respectively. One ball is chosen at random from the box. The number is recorded and the ball is replaced in the box. The process was carried out 75 times in total. How many times would you expect an even ball to have been chosen? Okay, so if we list our possible outcomes, it could be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5. So the probability of you getting an even numbered is 1, 2 out of 5. So probability even. If you'd have written probability of even, that's fine, but that's how we tend to write probability, P, and then whatever we're describing in brackets, will be 2 out of 5. 2, because there are 2 even numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there are 5 numbers altogether. So, if we draw the ball out once, we've got a 2 in 5 chance of getting it right. So for 75 times, we could expect 2/5, the probability in one throw, times the number of throws altogether. That's the same as 150 divided by 5, because 275s are 150. Non-calculator paper, I can't do that in my head, so I'm going to use this method. 5 into 1 doesn't go, 5 into 15 goes 3 times, 5 into 0 goes 0 times. So 30 times. So I expect an even numbered ball on 30 occasions. So you're going to get a mark for the maths of 2/5. You're going to get a mark for the maths of correctly multiplying by the number of times it was repeated, and you're going to get a mark for the maths of 30. And then to get the other 2 marks, it's just saying what your possible outcomes are rather than just listing them, telling me that that's a probability, and conclusion. That will get your other 2 marks. Question 7, bearings. So you need to remember that bearings are measured from 0 at north, and they turn in this direction, a clockwise direction, until you're pointing, your line of sight has moved from north to whatever you're looking at, which in this case is X. So that bearing is going to be 180 degrees from north to south, plus an additional 34 degrees. 214. The diagram below shows 6 points on a map. The diagram is drawn to scale. A ship sails from a point P on a bearing of 107 degrees. It sails towards one of the 5 points A, B, C, D or E. So it's drawn to scale. So that means that I can actually measure 107 degrees. So I need to put the center of my measurer on P, line the 0 to north, and this time, because I've got to measure in a clockwise direction, I'm on the outside scale. There's 100, there's 107. So it's going through A. A second ship sails from point P for a number of miles on a bearing of 070. It then changes direction and sails on a bearing of 270 degrees. It is possible for the ship to reach only one of the 5 points. Which point can it be? So you can either deduce this, or you can actually measure it. 070 is going to be in this quadrant, because it's less than 90 degrees. So if we just measure it to show it, 070. So my ship is going up there somewhere on that route, and then it's going to turn through 270 degrees. That's 90. That's 90, which is 180. Add 90 is 270. So it's going to pretty much turn and then go in that direction. So the only one of those points it's going to get anywhere near is E, because all the other points are in a different direction. Question 8. Parallel lines. Find the size of each of the angles A, B and C. So a question like this is testing your ability for angle properties of triangles, because I've got a triangle in there, it'll add up to 180. Intersecting lines, where opposite angles are equal, and angles on a straight line add up to 180. And parallel lines, where you have things like alternate angles or Z angles, where that one is the same as that, and so on and so on. So you're just trying to figure out what you can work out. And what I would do here is write on my diagram, maybe in pencil if I'm not confident, and then write my answers afterwards. So I'm looking, I can see a Z there. So I know that A is 52 straight away. Now if A is 52, because I've got these intersecting lines here, that and that are opposite each other, so B is 52. Down here, I've got a straight line, and on one side of the straight line I've got 116. So to work out what X is, I've got to do 180 take away 116. I can't take 6 from 0, which means I've borrowed from there. 1 from 7 is 6, so that is 64 degrees. If I know that that is 64, that enables me in here to work out what Y is, because in my triangle I know 52 and 64 is 118, so I'm going to take those two away from 180 and it'll give me Y. So 180 take away 118, borrow 2 becomes 62. So Y is 62, which then leaves me C. And C, I got a Z there, which means if that is 64, that is 64. Which means I've gone wrong, because that doesn't add up to 180. What have I done wrong there now then? That's 116. I'm sure you're shouting at the screen now, you knew that. So that's 116, which makes that 64. And that makes Y 64. So that's 64 and that's 64 and that's 52. So there we are. So that cracks that. So C is 64. Find the size of each of the angles X, Y. Oh, we've done that. So we've got X is 64 and Y is 64. And hence give the special name for triangle LMN. Well, LMN now has two equal angles, which means it's got two equal sides. It's an isosceles triangle. Is its special name. Question 9. Reflect the triangle in the x-axis. X-axis is this one. So my mirror is going there, and that is going to reflect down there. It's going to be the same distance this side of the mirror as it is, on the reflected side of the mirror as it is on the original side. So that point is 3 above, will end up there, that one will end up there, and this one will end up there. Use a pencil on the exam paper in case you mess it up. So that's that. B. The circle shown below is rotated 90 degrees anti-clockwise about the origin. So it's a rotation. With a rotation, it has to tell you how far to turn it, 90 degrees, in what direction, anti-clockwise, and where do you pin it, and the origin is there. So we take our tracing paper, we trace the shape, we know we've got to turn it, so I put a little arrow pointing up. I need to turn it until that arrow is going through a quarter of a turn in an anti-clockwise direction, which is this way, so it's going to be pointing there. So the centre would be -3, 5. Okay, the centre is going to be there. -3 is the x-coordinate, plus 5, which is that one. So don't forget, tracing paper is useful for any rotation question, whether it's rotation symmetry or a transformation like that. So that's it. We get a C comfortably if we've got everything right up to that point. Now we're hunting our grade B. Expand, that means get rid of the brackets by multiplying. When you're doing that, you're taking whatever's outside and multiplying it by each and every term inside. So we're doing 3x times x squared, which will be 3x cubed, because x times x squared is x times x times x. Go back to question 1 when we were talking about cube numbers, that's x cubed. Then we have to do 3x times -2. 3 times 2 is 6. We've got an x term, and that's positive, that's negative, signs are different, answer's negative. Okay, we being my class in school, we haven't done this, but it's just following the same rules that you would when you're solving equations. You want to rearrange that until you've got the g on its own equals everything else. Now because it's negative on that side, the first thing I'm going to do is add 3g to both sides. What that does on this side is give me f plus 3g, and on this side they've cancelled each other out and I'm left with 2. Now I'm going to take f off both sides because I want to get the g on its own. So that leaves me 3g on the left hand side and 2 take f on the right hand side. Finally, to get the g on its own, I need to divide both sides by 3. Divide that by 3, you get g. Divide this by 3, and we get a fraction where we just write it as 2 minus f over 3. So we're into grade B work now. If you're not comfortable working with equations, you won't be comfortable with that. If you're happy with equations, it's basically extra marks for doing the same thing. Here's another question which is extra marks for doing the same thing, because you treat this exactly as you would an equation. I want to get the x on its own. First of all, I need to deal with the take 3 by adding 3. I'm going to do the same to the other side. It leaves me 7x on that side. Equals, the only way it's different is it's a less than sign, not an equal sign. 29 add 3 is 32. Now I divide both sides by by 7, so I get 32 over 7. Now this one, it's helpful for the second part of it if we simplify that further, either by turning it into a mixed number. So 7 goes into 32 4 times. 4 sevens are 28, remainder 4 over 7. So x has got to be less than 4 and 4 sevenths. What's the greatest integer? Integer is whole number. So if you imagine you've got a number line, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. This value of x is between 4 and 5, it's 4 and 4 sevenths, so it's about there. So x marks the spot. I want the biggest whole number that is less than that. The biggest whole number that is smaller than 4 and 4 sevenths is 4. So long as you can solve equations, there's an extra 5 marks there for you. Question 11. So this time we do need one of these jobbies. Two straight lines, AB and AC, is shown below. The point P is equidistant from the line AB and AC. It's of equal distance from those two lines. We did in school loci back in the autumn when we were getting ready for the numeracy tests. So you need to remember this or revise this. If we want a line equidistant from two lines, we have to cut the angle in half. Bisecting the angle, you take your compass, you put your compass point on the corner which we want to bisect, cut in half. Doesn't matter how far you open it out, and you cross each of the two lines that form the angle. Then, without adjusting your compass, you move the point to one of those, arc out into the middle, and repeat from the other side. What that then gives you, when you join the angle to the crossing of the arcs, is a line that's of equal distance from the other two. So this point P is on that line somewhere. We know it is 6 centimeters from point B. So equal distance from a point is part of a circle. So we take our compass again. We need to measure 6 centimeters, which is what we've got there. Put the center on point B and draw our circle. Now that circle is actually going to cross my blue line in two places. So P could be there and will be 6 centimeters from B, or it could be there and be 6 centimeters from B. So I need one more condition. So I've done the first one, I've done the second one. It's got to be more than 10 centimeters from point A. Well, from point A, 10 centimeters, we'll do the same again. Open my compass out now to 10 centimeters and draw this part of the circle. So it has to be more than 10 centimeters from A. So it's got to be outside this circle. It's not there. It's there. That point is on that line, so it's an equal distance from that line and that line. It's on this curve, so it's exactly 6 centimeters from B, and it's outside that curve, so it isn't that line. Question 12. Share £720 in the ratio of 2 to 7. So I have 9 parts that would be equal. So I have to divide 720 into 9 equal parts. 9 into 7 doesn't go, so you've got to straight away go into 9 into 72, which is 9/8 are 72. So each part is worth 80, which means this is going to be 2 parts, which is 2/8 160, and then the other part will be 7 lots of 80, 7/8 of 56, 560. Part B, calculate the value of the reciprocal of 0.2. Reciprocal means 1 over. So you have 0.2 over 1. I'll show you a couple of different ways of getting this. The reciprocal means you turn it over and you get 1 over 0.2. 1 over 0.2, you wouldn't leave a number like that. I can turn that into a whole number if I multiply it by 10. But in order to keep it the same, I would then have to multiply the top by 10. 1 times 10 is 10. 0.2 times 10 is 2. So the reciprocal of 0.2 is 10 over 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Or 0.2 as a fraction, the 2 is in the tenths, units, tenths, so that you can write straight down as 2 over 10. The reciprocal, you'll turn it upside down to get 10 over 2, which is 5. So there's 2 different ways of working that out without a calculator. But that's all you need to remember about reciprocal, is you turn it upside down. Question 13. Diagram below shows an empty cylinder with a radius of 10 centimeters and a height of 20 centimeters. So it's unusual to have a question like this on a non-calculator paper, but they're telling you for pi, you're going to replace pi by 3.14. The area of the circle is pi times radius squared, which is pi times 100. And pi is 3.14. 3.14 times 100, well 3 times 100 is 300, so that's going to be 314. So the area of the circular cross section is 314, and then they want that the volume. Now you should remember the volume of a cylinder is the area of the circle times the height, but I didn't photocopy the formula. They do give you a formula on the front for the volume of a prism to help you, but the volume will be 314 times 20. Well, 314 times 2 is going to be 628, and it's not 2, it's 20, so we're going to add a 0. Here, again, it's not asking you to give the units, but put them in anyway. Area, remember, was centimeters squared, so volume will be centimeters cubed. What is the greatest whole number of litres that this cylinder can hold? So for this, you need to remember that 1,000 cubic centimeters is approximately, no, sorry, it's not, it's exactly 1 litre. So we've got 6,280, so the whole number of litres will be 6, because 1,000 goes into that 6 times, and that will give you a little bit of lip at the top which isn't full. This is one of those instances where when you're rounding you need to think about the context. If that had been, say, 6,780, well, you could, following a rounding convention, say, well, it's closer to 7 litres, but because that might be something you're filling with liquid, it's never going to take 7 litres, so you would always then round down. Question 14. 5 numbers are listed below. Write down another set of 5 positive whole numbers such that all the numbers are less than 20. The median of the new set of numbers is greater than the median of the set shown above. The mean of the new set of numbers is less than the mean of the set shown above. The range, okay, so for this set above, so for the originals, the median is 6, it's in the middle. The mode is 3, because that occurs more than anything else. The total equals, so let's have a look, 6, 12, 25, 40. And there are 5 positive numbers, so the mean would be 40 divided by 5, which is 8. And the range, biggest take away the smallest, would be 15 take away 3, which is 12. Right. So let's go back to my conditions. All the numbers are less than 20. The median of the new set of numbers is got to be bigger than 6. The mean of the new set of numbers is less than the mean of the set shown above. So that means that these numbers have to add up to something smaller than 40. Otherwise the mean will be bigger. And the range is smaller. So the biggest take away the smallest has to be less than 12. Gosh. So this is going to be one where there's probably going to be quite a few answers. So the median has to be bigger than 6. I'm going to go pencil here. So the median has got to be greater than 6. So if we say that the median is 7, the range, so the median is greater, all the numbers are less than 20. The mean of the new, so they've got to add up to smaller than 40. The range has to be less than the range shown above, so at a range smaller than 12. So let's say we have, say we make that 10, and we could make that, they've got to add up to less than 40. The numbers have to be less than 20. So let's say, let's make that 15, and let's make that 5. So my range is now 20, which is less than 12. No, it isn't. Sorry, my range is 10, which is less than 12. So the range is less, the median is more. These add up to 27. So my other two numbers have to add up to less than 13. So if I say 6 and 8, then I've gone over, that's over 40, isn't it? So I got 15, 23, 30, that's 41. So it doesn't satisfy that one. If I make that 3, that doesn't help me because the range is no good then. So if I make it, if I make that 18 and I make this, what am I trying to do? Range smaller than 12. So if I make that 8, that gives me a range of 10. That means the median has to be something else. So if I make the median 9, I've got 26. $35, and I would need something less than 40. I'm going to come back to that one. That's one I'm going to leave to the end because that's doing my head in. Number 15. So these are indices. Again, in school, I haven't done these with any of my classes. So root 7 to the power of 4. This is a grade B overlap with the higher tier. Root 7 to the power of 4 means multiplying root 7 by itself 4 times. But if you multiply the square root of 7 by the square root of 7, you're just undoing the square root. So that becomes 7 times 7, which is 49. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. That's an indice fact you learn when you do that. The square root of 3 squared times 5 squared is the same as the square root of 3 times 5 all squared. Well, the square and the square root cancel each other out, which means they are the same as 3 times 5, which is 15. 3 to the negative 4, negative power is a trigger for 1 over. So that's the same as 1 over 3 to the power of 4. 3 to the power of 4 is 3 times itself 4 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 3s are 27. 27 times 3 is 21, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to be 1 over 81, which is that one. 4 times 2 to the power of 28 can be written as 2 to the power of n. Well, 4 is 2 squared times 2 to the power of 28. When the bases are the same, you add the powers, so you get 2 to the power of 30. So there won't be many intermediate tier students getting marks on that. Similarly with this one, Circa Theorems, you either know these or you don't, so I'm not going to spend too long on these, but for the intermediate tier, there are fewer Circa Theorems you have to learn. One of them we call the arrowhead, because you can see an arrowhead there. The angle at the center is twice the angle at the outside. So if that's 74, I know that this is 148. That then puts me into an isosceles triangle. I know it's isosceles because that side is a radius and that side is a radius, so they have to be the same length. So x is going to be 180 less 148, So 2, change that from 80 to 70, 10, 32. So x is 32. Those two have to add up to 32. So x is 32 divided by 2 is 16 degrees. If you haven't done circle theorems, don't sweat on that. Question 17. Biased six-sided dice is shown thrown a total of 1,000 times. The graph shows the relative frequency. Okay, so there's your trigger here. It's grade B, but it is something that we do practice because it's quite straightforward if you can get your head around it. So the graph shows the relative frequency of throwing a 6 after 200, 400, 600 and so on throws. Which of the following is the best estimate for the probability of throwing a 6? So with relative frequency, the best estimate is the one you get after the most repeated trials. So it's the one you read off the furthest right on your relative frequency graph, which is that one there. And that is 0.32. How many 6s were thrown in the first 600 throws? So you read off the probability at 600, which is 0.34, and you times it by 600. So 34 times 6, let's go and do that. Over here, 4 6 is 24, 18, 204. And that is actually the final answer there, because you've got 0.5 times 600 would be 300, so it's less than 0.5, so you got that right. How many more 6s were recorded for these 600 throws than you would expect when a fair six-sided dice is thrown? Well, a fair six-sided dice, you'd have the probability of 1 in 6 times 600. So you would have expected 100 6s. So you'd expect 100. You've got 204. So 104 more throws. Sorry, 104 more 6s. I'll just explain that again. If it was a fair dice, the chances of you getting a 6 is 1 out of 6. So if you threw a fair dice 600 times, you get 1 out of 6 times 600 is 100. We actually got 204, so there's 104 more 6s. And then the final question, grade B again, very much part of the overlap. Cuboid has sides x centimeters, 5 centimeters and 7 centimeters. The total surface area of the cuboid is 142 centimeters squared. So let's get my cuboid going first of all. And add the dimensions. So it's got a side 7, 5 and x. So a cuboid has got 6 faces. The surface area is what you get if you add up the area of each face. So the front face will be an area of 7 times x, and there's one of those on the back as well. This end will be 5 times x, and there's one of them over there. And then the base is 7 times 5, sorry, 35, and that's got a top on it as well, which is also 7 times 5. And when we add all of those together, the surface area is 142. Let's simplify. 7x and 7x is 14 plus 10, 24x plus 70 equals 142. Laws of equations, I want to get rid of the 70, I have to take it off. If I take 70 off there, I've got to take 70 off there as well. Leaves me 24x on this side, and on this side it's going to leave 2, then I'm going to have to borrow 7, so 72. Divide by 24, which is 3. 24 times 3 is 72. So x equals 3. Check then whether that's all they want you to do is find x. It is. Job done. So I can stop this recording now, and then I'll go back and try and get my head around that mean, mode, and median question.